Thanks, everybody. I'm Matt Cohen. This is my colleague Hayden Van Brewer, and we're with SkillCorner. I'm on the business development side, and I just want to say thank you to Scott and to Sarah and all the organizers for having us. We're super excited. So yeah, just a quick intro on who we are and who SkillCorner is. So we are what is called broadcast tracking data. So we take the feeds from what you guys would see on TV, and then we use our AI models to identify all the players on the pitch and then derive our different data sets from there. So with, yeah, here you go. You can kind of see just a quick synopsis on kind of the crux of what we do. So the video on the right-hand side would be your typical kind of broadcast feed. And you can see we're identifying all the players that are on the pitch, largely by their jersey number or their jersey color, by their positional grouping. The red is the touch line in terms of the homography. And what you see on the left-hand side is kind of the mini map of what the camera is able to see on the pitch. And you'll notice that there are some players that are outside of that field of view. And so just to kind of mention to maybe the people who aren't so aware about what we do, we have a kind of extrapolation model, prediction model, whereby we validate our models against the ground truth. So an optical tracking system where you can see all 22 players on the pitch. And we can accurately say that if you were to draw a circle around any of those players that are outside the camera view, they should be within about 2 meters of where we're saying. So that really allows us to provide data at scale across a number of different competitions, but also be one that whoever is using our data can feel confident in terms of what they're using is as accurate as possible. So this here is just a slide to be able to show you guys. We may have mentioned this previously, but basically this is more just to kind of show everybody in the room here that's been able to work with our data and come up with some really cool research projects, is that whether you're a big team in the world or you're maybe a smaller club in the world, that there's an appetite for data, and that it's good for everybody in here to kind of feel confident that what you're working on is meaningful and valuable, and teams are using it and wanting to have this in their building. So it's more for you guys in terms of kind of a confidence booster that what you're doing is really, really important work. And these are some of the competitions that we track in terms of our broadcast tracking. The key for today is really to kind of focus on some of the, I'll show you up here, some of the women's leagues that we track. We have about 25 competitions around the globe that we're able to track. Here in the United States, we have obviously NWSL, we have USL Super League, and we also have Brazil and Mexico in North America. So
Costa Rica as well now.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So with what you kind of saw in that video, we are able to derive these 3 different data sets. Hayden's going to go through some more insights around our physical data. But in terms of our tracking data, we obviously have the raw XY coordinates of all the 22 players on the pitch. With that, you technically could create your own physical data and your own contextualized data. We've done that obviously as a company to be able to provide all of our clients some quick, immediate kind of value add. So we have our physical data, and then we also have our game intelligence data, which is looking at more the contextualized side of it. So in possession, off-ball runs, passing options, overcoming or kind of resisting pressure. We have out of possession, which is looking on the defensive engagement side of it as well, and kind of defending off-ball runs and some pretty exciting things. But today we wanted to focus on one area that is around change of direction, and I'll pass it over to Hayden to go through with the physical data content.
Thank you very much. Hope everyone can hear me all right. So the physical data has kind of been one of the bread and butters of what SkillCorner has done for years and years, allowed the company to work with a lot of different teams. But we've released recently these new change of direction metrics. So what this looks like is counting these intense change of direction moments that are really important. Soccer is a game of cutting, of moving quickly into a different space to create separation from opponents. So I'll talk a little bit more about these time to 505 metrics in just a moment, but also we're looking at how players accelerate after change of direction as well. So focusing on this, for sports scientists in the room, I know there's some. 505 test is something that you might be doing, maybe if you want to call a shuttle run, but essentially this is looking to evaluate how players in short distances can change speed and re-accelerate. So we look to replicate this, but in environment, so not needing to put wearables on athletes, being able to compare them in competition when they're trying to perform at an optimal level. So keeping this in the background for now, first we're going to look at wingers. So this is a really interesting conundrum here that anyone who's sort of looked at physical data will be able to tell you, is that You can sometimes get these players that have a lot of distance and volume metrics, and they're really good at that, and those are related. And then these sort of intensity measures that are related, so peak speed, counts of sprints, things like that. And you'll end up with this divergence here when you're looking at wingers. So Mario Götze, Bischoff, Moretti, these are players that could also play as midfielders, or Mario Götze maybe has played as a midfielder. And you end up with players that are sort of sprinters and really fast. Anthony Alonga, Anthony Gordon, these guys up here. But the problem here, or with historically this physical data, is that it says that these guys are not athletic. So this is Bukayo Saka, Jeremy Doku, Yamin Lamal. These are players who I think anyone would watch and say, yeah, these guys are really athletic, actually. It's very different. So some of the challenge here is evaluating those physical characteristics. And so we can see here by looking at some of our change of direction measures, yeah, these guys have really a great ability to change direction. Again, these are change of directions happening in possession. Guys can do this with the ball. Guys can do this without the ball. And that's a little bit of where I'm going to go in a second. But just why does this matter? Why does this matter to someone like Carlos, who talked about how you integrate data throughout everywhere in your club? Well, the idea here is if you're looking for guys with elite physical performance or really superlative physical traits, that this is giving you about 10% more guys that have elite physical traits. Again, adding this additional dimension. That's what it does to your player pool. And it basically does this across the board. Across all positions, we see something similar here. So my goal here for today is not just to talk to you about the new stuff at SkillCorner and what we do, which I find really cool, but actually my role when I worked in clubs was working as an analyst to provide these insights to all these different departments. And so my goal is to bring in the soccer context here. And so what we have here with our out of possession data, which is what I'm focusing on today, is different types of events that happen. So there'll be events that look more like pressures, events that look more like dueling. All of this is wrapped in a context of the phase of play of the match, is wrapped in how dangerous the possession is based on like expected threat models, different types of possession, etc. And then also adding outcome. Is the team regaining the ball? Does the player win the ball, etc. So I mentioned these sort of metrics here, and I'm going to focus on this time to 505 around 90. So this is players that have a good ability to move 5 meters and then sharply at about 90 degrees change direction to the right or left. And so I was playing around with the new data when we got access to it. Oh, I've got an example first. Oh, great. Awesome. The video plays great. So this is Pedri, gives the ball away. You can see 90-degree turn, changing direction to press. Florian Wirtz in here for Leverkusen. This is all 24-25. Again, changing direction, cutting sharply. And Phil Foden, again, 90-degree turn. And actually, we're covering each one of these circles is a frame, and we're capturing the speed. You can see in the top right corner for those that see that. So I bring those players up because I was playing around with our data. This is in our web platform. And on-ball engagements, these are defensive actions. Again, this bottom right corner, these are guys with lower time in this 505 around 90, so they're doing it quicker. So this was really interesting to me because these 3 guys are all really good. Wirtz in particular moved for 100 million euros. The other 2 guys are sort of maybe even seen as untouchable or hard to sell because they're so valuable. So I wanted to dig more into this. And so what I did was I took the difference in players between 24-25, 25-26, Europe's top 5 leagues and their second divisions, players playing in the same position group, and looked at the change. So OBE change here on the y-axis. This is the change in volume for defensive action. So these are players that from 24-25 to 25-26 are making way more defensive actions if we look in the top right corner. And on the y-axis here, I've inverted it so the top right is the ideal quadrant here. Seeing players that in that season before had this indicator, that they had maybe this ability to change direction really well, so they might be able to make that step up to an environment that has more pressing. And so a few names up there that I've highlighted that I'm going to talk about in a sec. But one name that I'm not going to talk about is Luis Diaz, who doesn't have to play as much defense anymore, who maybe had to do more pressing at Liverpool than he does for Bayern. So that's kind of nice for him and maybe gives him some career longevity. So, okay, so these are players that joined new teams and led their team in these on-ball engagements and total regains. Actually, both these guys lead their teams in total distance. This is Florian Wirtz, who's gone to Liverpool, and Jonathan David. And I think these are both ones that, these are valuable players that went to big teams, but also, they are performing at a really high level and being able to win the ball back more than anyone else in these elite teams coming from teams maybe a step below, part of that is maybe they have this ability to reactively impress. And that is really interesting for Jonathan David in particular, who will be at the World Cup for Canada, who has got a lot of competition at the striker position at Juventus. They've got sort of 3 strikers that are maybe seen as top guys, so that's a challenge. In addition, looking at players moving up a level. So this for me was, again, when I found this, I was like, I might have a presentation here today. So Panichelli is second in scoring in Liga. He was playing the season before in the 2nd division in Spain. So that's really exciting to see a player, again, if you're looking for a player that can fit your style of play and make a jump up in level. The hope here is that some of these new physical metrics combined with the contextual elements of the game can help you do that. Other player here, Alberto Molero, unfortunately did not start the last match for Villarreal because they were already out of the competition, so I think they're actually resting him there, but has essentially been an ever-present for Villarreal, a Champions League level team, coming from a team that was relegated the season before. So again, finding value in these other places for players that can make the jump. But it's not just for that. It can come from unlikely places because Quique Garcia was signed as a 35-year-old, and he was leading his previous team in these on-ball engagements, and he has continued to lead Espanyol, now is 36, and has featured in just about every single game. And the last one here is Marcelino Nunez, a midfielder playing for Norwich, sort of as a more deep-lying distributor. He was 4th on the team in on-ball engagement, so I sort of highlight that to say he was a starter, he was a key player, but his main role in the team was not necessarily winning the ball back. He moved over to rivals Ipswich, where he's played further forward as a 10, and he now leads the team in that sort of pressing number there in our on-ball engagement. So again, even players moving across context, if they have the abilities to do those things, the hope here is that you can expand your scouting pool to find more players, which will hopefully either get you a better player or a more affordable player, which is kind of the goal here. So yeah, kind of just touched on that right there. And yeah, this is sort of one of the applications of these new physical metrics. I think one of the exciting things for me moving from the club side to the provider side with SkillCorner has been getting to see sort of behind the scenes. So we always like to share some of what's next and coming. So probably the thing that I'm most excited about, like when I go home in the next couple of weeks, is to play with this new under pressure data for us. So this is what our previous under pressure data looked like. It was only looking at time to impact when the player was passing a ball. So I'll show you a clip here and we can all have a bit of a laugh. Josko Guardiola getting on the ball. And at this moment, he's going to pass it. There's a really high time to impact. So he's getting closed down. So he's under a ton of pressure, clearly. Well, if we evaluate that now, we're actually now using this sort of 5-point scale. We're looking at multiple models here that are looking at how much space the player has, how difficult the reception is. So if that ball is in the air, if that ball is away from the player, trying to understand if they have easy passing options. So we'll watch that clip again. But I think it's really, the thing to understand here is he doesn't feel the pressure as highly because he has very easy passes that are very close. And again, we can be evaluating that pass difficulty. The granularity of this data is throughout. So if you wanted to understand these different models, what those situations look like, all of our data is also tied to XMLs for sports code users and video analysts. And some of the goal here is to create more of this interaction between departments so that sports scientists can talk to video analysts, can talk to recruitment analysts, and everyone can talk to the sporting director and coach, hopefully, and influence decisions here. So again, Sarah touched on it at the start and has been very helpful for us. Sam Gregory, who's also helped us a ton in this realm with the women's physical data. We hope to have this later this year with the updated versions of our tracking data. But we validated speed thresholds on the research of Don Scott. It works, it mirrors very well also with the broadcast tracking, which is a bigger sample than that research. And we've also done the same with the acceleration bands, which I think from my experience, a lot of the maybe NWSL teams work actually with the same men's acceleration bands, and there hasn't been as much research in the acceleration space. But we sort of done the same thing to model the same curve and found some pretty good results there. So we're really excited to deliver this for the women's game later this year across all of our historical data, all data moving forward, and we'll also go in and impact these models on the under pressure and things like that. So I think before we jump into questions, just wanted to make sure we touch on all of our data sets, so the broadcast tracking data and then the game intelligence data, as well as physical feeds, were provided to the participants in the research competition for NWSL 2024 and 23-24 for FA Women's Super League in England. So hopefully providing full season's worth of data, different competitions to compare, a large enough player pool for the excellent research projects we'll see over these next couple days.
Thank you.
That's me.